It started as a beautiful Christmas night, a house full of laughter, 10 happy children, and a loving family. But within hours, 5 of those children vanished without a trace. No bodies, no bones, no evidence, just a fire, a series of strange events, and a mystery that has remained unsolved for nearly 80 years. Did these children really die in the fire, or were they kidnapped? And if so, by whom? On Christmas Eve, 1945, in the quiet town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, the Sodder family was celebrating the holiday like any other American family. George and Jenny Sodder, Italian immigrants, lived with their 10 children in a large wooden house. That night, at around 1 a.m., a fire broke out in their home. George and Jenny managed to escape with 4 of their children, but the 5 others, who were sleeping upstairs, were never seen again. What makes this case so bizarre is that no human remains were ever found in the fire. Not a single bone, not a tooth. The authorities ruled it an accident, but the Sodder family never believed it. Over the years, strange evidence emerged, leading to shocking theories. Was the fire deliberately set to cover up a kidnapping? Did someone want to silence George Sodder? Were the children taken by the Italian Mafia? Even after decades of searching, this mystery remains unsolved. The biggest question surrounding this case is how 5 children could disappear without a trace. The official report concluded that the children died in the fire and their bodies were completely destroyed. But science says otherwise. Human bones cannot completely disintegrate even in an intense house fire. Even at 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit, 800 degrees Celsius, bones remain intact. If cremation requires temperatures over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for several hours to reduce bones to ash, then how could a regular house fire, burning for just 45 minutes, completely destroy 5 bodies? Even more strangely, the household appliances in the burned home were still identifiable, but there were no bones, no teeth, nothing from the children. This made George and Jenny believe that their children did not die in the fire. They were taken. The more the Sodder family investigated, the stranger the case became. Here are some of the biggest red flags that suggested foul play. Jenny Sodder recalled that at 12:30 a.m., the phone rang. When she answered, a woman was laughing strangely. Jenny dismissed it as a prank call and went back to bed. But when George later tried calling the fire department during the fire, he found that the phone line had been cut. Investigators later confirmed that the phone wires were deliberately severed from the outside. George kept a ladder outside, which he immediately planned to use to reach the second-floor window and save his children. But the ladder had disappeared. Days later, it was found thrown into a ditch 75 feet away from the house. Desperate to reach his children, George ran to his 2 coal trucks, which had been working fine the day before. But both trucks failed to start. Was it a coincidence, or did someone sabotage them in advance? Jenny recalled hearing a loud thud on the roof just minutes before the fire started. Months later, after the snow melted, they found a round, rubber-like object near the house. It was later identified as a pineapple bomb, an incendiary device used in World War II. Was this object the reason the fire started? The Sodder family became convinced that their children were kidnapped under the cover of the fire. But by whom? And why? Several theories emerged. Months before the fire, an insurance salesman visited George Sodder and pressured him to buy home insurance. When George refused, the man angrily said, "Your house will burn, and your children will be destroyed. You will pay for your opinions." This man was also part of the coroner's jury that ruled the fire an accident. Was this just a coincidence? George Sodder was an outspoken critic of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. He frequently argued with people in his town who supported Mussolini. Could the Italian Mafia have kidnapped his children as revenge? Many locals believed this. After the fire, there were multiple reported sightings of the Sodder children. A hotel worker in Charleston said she saw the children with a strange couple. A woman in St. Louis claimed she saw them in a church. A bus driver saw a car speeding away from the Sodder house on the night of the fire. Could it be that someone kidnapped them and raised them under new identities? In 1967, over 20 years after the fire, Jenny Sodder received a letter in the mail. It contained a photo of a young man with a message written on the back. Louis Sodder. I love Brother Frankie. Elil boys. A 90132 or 35 inches. The photo strongly resembled their missing son, Louis. The Sodders hired a private investigator to track the letter's origins. But strangely, the investigator disappeared too, never to be heard from again. George and Jenny never gave up searching for their missing children. They put up billboards along highways, offering $5,000, later $10,000, for information. They followed every clue, no matter how small. Jenny wore black for the rest of her life in mourning. George Sodder passed away in 1969, heartbroken. Jenny followed in 1989. After her death, their remaining children removed the billboards, finally accepting that they may never know the truth. What really happened to the Sodder children? Did they perish in the fire, or were they victims of a carefully planned abduction? If